Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another video of some F1 2022 game ideas. Episode number 9 today. We're talking about some other things that haven't covered in the 8 episodes so far. So if you have missed any of the 8 episodes, then of course you can go and check that out and subscribe to the channel. You see plenty more F1 gaming content on a weekly basis. But anyway, yes, these are just 8 other things that I've tried that I think would make the F1 game better. We've already covered so much, and I mean, if they just, I haven't been throughout this series. I have not been outrageous. I'm not like asking for the next the thing that we all want, which is for to be able to walk around the paddock and have that full immersive experience, walk around the HQ, etc. We're not at that position yet. We're not at that position, definitely not, and that's probably not going to come at least for another. Well, it's going to be years before that comes out. I mean, we can dream about that, but the stuff that I've mentioned throughout this series is stuff that could be realistically put onto F1 2022 if Codemasters put some actual effort into making the F1 game. I know a load of you would prefer a simple game that isn't broken, and I reiterate this. We should be. My expectations are all the stuff that I've mentioned in the series so far, and I'm going to mention this episode, and a game that works. Because the fact of the matter is, there are still glitches, like the dancing tire wall glitch, like the start button not accepting this any button from your pad when you press on the startup, and a whole load of other issues that have been raised before and haven't been resolved, and it's just purely and utterly unacceptable. But yes, let's take a look then at 8 other things that should be in F1 2022, and I'm going to start on an old one. Grand Prix mode. It hasn't been updated for about 1,085 years. So yes, I did a video on this a few years ago, where I photoshopped together what Grand Prix mode should be like. So I might try and if I can find that video, then I'll leave an I thing in the top right hand corner. But anyway, I'm just including that you should be able to customize the grid, the fuel, the tyre wear options, a bit what I was saying last week, and having the multiplayer race options. You should be able to choose that. The minimum and maximum pit stops as well. If I want to make the AI do a minimum of 2 pit stops to make the races interesting in Grand Prix mode, then that's what should happen. The number of laps, I think it should actually be a percentage slider, so you'd be able to select. If I want 98% of a race, then I should be able to select 98% of the race. DRS is another option here, turning DRS off so DRS isn't available, and also reverse grids as well should also be added. And then also they should really be adding the qualification modes that I mentioned as well earlier. So like over the elimination format, sprint racing should be allowed. It should be even the Formula 2 format. Why not? Let's race it in. Let's have that in F1, for example. It's a video game. There isn't a limit to how much basically they could do with these ideas for Grand Prix mode, and Grand Prix mode is an open book, in my opinion, that you should be able to do a whole lot more effectively the only reason why you race in Grand Prix mode is because maybe you want to do a one-off race, for example, at a particular track, or you want to try something out. Basically, that's the reason why you race in Grand Prix mode, or you're doing a story mod like me with Project Phoenix. That's stuff like that. But having these additional options that might not necessarily be available in for example a career mode, then it gives you the option to try those options out basically. And I'm going to move on to the second one, the weather. Now, we all know that the wet weather is atrocious on F1 2021. It looks wet, but it actually isn't. Now, an actual fact, Codemasters should be ashamed of themselves of the wet weather system they've implemented on F1 2021, because the fact of the matter is F1 2013 looks 1,085 times better. Even F1 2011, that game is 10 years old and it has better wet weather gameplay than F1 2021. Like with F1 2011, you've got like this, if it's raining, then if you get behind a car and the spray, then it like in real life, the screen gets fogged up with all those spray and whatnot, so you can't see. Having that more realistic, and I'm going to also add to this in something that we've seen now. Storm weather isn't available in any other game mode other than career mode. So having that storm weather available, imagine being able to set a storm wet weather rates. Now, as I say, you might want to turn the safety car off so you can try it out and really give it. Again, it's a video game, so at the end of the day, if somebody has a crash, they're not going to be hurt by it. So having the storm weather gives us an idea, and it maybe also gives people an idea of how terrible Belgium was. We don't need to flashback about that. And then also, just to make things nice, especially at Christmas, snow weather as well. I want to try out snow weather. We've seen snow weather, and I think there should be variants of snow weather like they have on Project Cars. So you've got your light snow, heavy snow, and then the full-on blizzard as well. They apparently do have snow tyres available, so the white wall one. So all they need to do is add those to the game as well. I know it's probably going to be a little bit more work, probably won't be on the game for next year, but we can dream about snow weather, and I think that snow weather should be something they look at for, if not for F1 2022, then F1 2023. And then that also about how the weather works, increased graphics and visuals. Now, when I wrote this, I hadn't played Forza Horizon 5, but I play Forza Horizon 5 on an Xbox One, and it looks 1,000 times better. By the way, I forgot to mention, I'm going to add another one to the weather bit. Sandstorm. I mean, let's have a sandstorm at Bahrain or any of the Middle East races should have a sandstorm weather as well, because that will definitely something that would make, again, it adds to the F1 game. I'm going to be interested. Oh, have I played everything yet? No. Oh, hang on. This is sandstorm weather mode. Oh, let me go and check this out as well. Stuff like that. But increased graphics and visuals, definitely. Although they have made improvements, it's not great, and I feel like that the tracks need to be a lot of work needs to be done with the tracks, because they're not realistic. They need to be properly laser scanned as opposed to using lidar data like they did for Zandvoort, which is what hence they were criticised, Codemasters, by the track's original designer. That criticised Codemasters when the Zandvoort first came to the F1 game last year, because the bankings weren't high enough, he said, in his opinion. So stuff like that, again, it's the next generation of a new engine is coming to the game, and I hope that they use the Frostbite engine, because if they use their own engine, I worry that it's not going to be up to the standards that we need now to be able to compete. As people, of course, games get even more beautiful and better looking as the better graphics and visuals are released. Number 4, young driver test. This is something that was in an old F1 game and hasn't been brought back since. Now, I didn't like the fact in the older F1 games that it was a mandatory thing. I think it should be an optional thing. But nevertheless, again, it can be added to career as an option as well. It might be a nice idea to do that before entering F1 driver career mode, stuff like that, as well. Again, I've mentioned that also this could be in career mode, and you are, as the team, select some test drivers to have a young driver test at the end of the season. But also gets new players familiarised with the game, gets them used to handling the braking model and so on. As well, so I think it should be brought back in those little scenarios. Should have definitely help the casual players out in getting used to the game and get them using some less of the assists. Although I will admit that I'm still using assists after playing the games for 7 years. So yes, number 5. Formula 3. Now, this is a controversial one because I've had arguments on previous F1 Game Ideas videos about this. It was suggested that Formula 3 should be added to the game, and to a certain extent, yes and no. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I do think that we need the F3 drivers there so that they can replace the F2 drivers and you see the F2 race results and see how people progress. Whether or not we see Formula 3 come into the game, remember it's a 30 car grid, which would be good for multiplayer because you can get more people in, hence why I mentioned the 30 car lobbies in last week's episode. But of course, at the same time, it is supposed to be an F1 game. Do you really need that step of feeder? I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. We'll start another conversation about that as well. Number 6, scenario mode. It was the championships was actually removed from F1 2021 because of classic cars were not there, and I think that, to be honest, they need a lot more work. I've always said that they should do a classic season mode, in my opinion, with classic cars. They have the classic cars and the tracks from just one season, and then you can have a career mode where you race through the season, either as a driver or as yourself. That's something that I've always said would be a really good addition to the game as well. But maybe having some historic scenarios that are relevant to the cars. For example, get Ayrton Senna's Tolman, see if he can see if he can have an alternative scenario where he catches Alain Prost, 1984 Monaco in the heavyweight. 6th gear at Brazil, and Senna, another scenario as well. And then also you've got so many drives from over the years from the back of the grid, from last to first challenge. Most notably comes to mind, of course, John Watson 1983 United States Grand Prix West. That would be a classic track as well at Long Beach. As well, so there's so much stuff that they can do. That would be so cool and sick to see them put in the game that make it relevant to the classic cars, and it opens not only the scenario mode back up, but also then gets more hopefully you'll get more people playing classic cars. Number 7, I don't think we need to mention this again. I'm just going to say 2 words: red flags. I don't think I need to say any more about that. Missing from the game, should be put back. Simple as that. Number 8, and the final one. I did not like the HUD. So where the position there. If you watch my videos, then you know that I customise my hub. I spent a little bit of time doing that on the day of the launch. But I do prefer. There's actually 2 things that I think that should be break up the parts a bit more. So oh well, if I want to make this the speed a bit more bigger, but some of the like the rev counter a bit smaller, then I should be able to do that. Stuff like that, for example. But all that is one part of the HUD as well. And then also, I mean, with the HUD, it's just stuff having more customization and allowing a bit more resizing work as well, because you have a percentage resizing, but it resizes based on the thing. You should be able to select an alternative viewing, maybe have a 3 or 4 standard layouts maybe that people have been using, and maybe say, okay, these are the layouts that the community wants, because there's plenty of layouts on YouTube. You've got myself, my layout. I know Arav uses a custom layout as well. So there's plenty of layouts that could be used as well with the HUD. And I've also got an axe to grind, the fact that the layouts, you can only choose them for racing. So for example, if you've watched any of my game experiment videos where I've done time trial, you will know that my HUD, which is set up perfectly for racing, but in time trial is complete and utter overlapping stuff as well. There's stuff like that, and then also the stuff with the blue flags and also the when you've got different notifications like yellow flags. Obviously red flags notification, but blue flags as well. The approaching back markers thing is so massive, but I want to be able to resize each notification, so giving more customizability to the layout of the HUD would be a massive step forward as well. So yes, that's where I'm going to leave it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel for new. You see plenty more F1 gaming video content on the channel as well. Let me know what you think about this series. Any comments for next year's game ideas, because I'll probably be saving my little Word document that I reused last year, funny enough, for most of them, and I'll probably be saving it and reusing it for next year most likely as well. So let me know any other ideas, and I'll add that to the next year's ideas. Before, as I say, thank you so much for watching this series, and until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, enjoy your day, and goodbye.